Hi, my name is Brandon, and over the past year, the Delight Cafe team and I have traveled across the U.S. researching this rapidly growing industry of CBD products. What we have found throughout the industry were products that were inconsistent in dosage and used ingredients that weren't even lab tested. Products with chalky textures, bitter aftertaste, and worst of all, confusion among the CBD consumers. That's why we created Delight Cafe. A 15 milligram lab-tested, all-natural, water-soluble hemp CBD powder pack. It's odorless, colorless, and tasteless. Add it to your favorite drink of choice, wherever, whenever, on the go. Quickly find your calm, your balance, and your delight when you need it most.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tuning in to the Stop Faking Me Out. I hate you. Oh, I love you and I hate you at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the next episode of The H, an honest conversation about health, hemp, and happiness. I am extremely excited to be back. We took a week off last week. Fernando, hello, handsome. We are actually back. Last week, Joe and I were in Las Vegas at this time, and we were presenting a bunch about the company, what we're doing, what the future is, a lot of good things. But we're back here today, and we're excited to be able to we're excited to be able to connect with everybody, say hello, and we have an incredibly great guest coming on. Her name is Elizabeth Holman. If I mispronounce that, Elizabeth, blame Joe. Oop, wrong way, Joe. He's always fun to blame for anything that I don't want to be blamed for. She is the president of Mindful Mental Health Delivery System for organizations, collaborator, and speaker with other mindful professionals. She is a global provider of mental health for autism and ABA and substance use benefits for Medicare, medical expansion, commercial and public sector markets, full service mindfulness, employee assistance programs, on-site critical incident response services, management referrals, and coaching wellness. That was a lot of coming out all at once. It is so good to be here, though. We already are diving in. Joe, because of you picking on me so much this morning and nobody knowing if you're really talking or not, you're going to get to explain why your name is what it is today. But wait until Elizabeth is here because she's reading it, and I guarantee she's thinking, oh, my God, what the heck is that? So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is an honor to introduce Miss Elizabeth Holman. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. I'm just adjusting my home studio here, and I got my ring light, and my kids were asking me if I'm trying to be Charlie D'Amelio, and I said, not exactly.
You're like, not today, guys, okay?
Yeah, not today. I'll stay blonde for today, so.
I love it. I love it. So that was you do a lot of things, like between the Autism Network, or between the Autism, ABA, and then substance abuse and Medicare and medical. Like, I'm reading this beforehand and looking into you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this Elizabeth is a busy woman. What got you into being so positive and wanting to help everybody?
Well, so family, of course, it's a family business, so that helps.
I love that. Now, do you have kids or anything that
I do. I have twin boys that are 12.
Ooh. Anybody, do they have autism? I'm assuming somebody does that makes this connect.
Well, we provide autism services at work. And so, I like to keep my kids' situation, in case they're listening, private. But I am a big autism advocate and a mental health advocate. Also, I'm a type 1 diabetes advocate. We do have those conditions in our family. So I like to be respectful, because they'll be listening and they'll be like, oh, Mom, you embarrassed me.
No embarrassment here whatsoever. We're going to make sure we keep the things. So tell me about your family business. How did you guys get started, and what makes you so different from other organizations?
So we got started in 1979, which is almost 41 years ago.
You don't look old enough to have started a business in 1979, just going to tell you.
Thank you, because I didn't.
Okay, good.
I'll take the compliment anyway, though. So that's
Take it.
fine.
21 and holding. I love it.
Yes. So my family started the business, and it's considered mental health insurance. So have you ever heard of medical insurance or dental insurance? People buy insurance for going to the doctor. So this is for mental health benefits. And, back in the early days, if you look at Industrial Revolution, where have we come from in the workplace, right? We know that work conditions were not the same as they are today. We have more rules to keep people safe. And so it kind of evolved from, the old adage that, people weren't really monitoring workers to keep them safe. So they put in programs such as substance use programs in the workplace. That's the first form of help that came in. They were losing fingers, and they were losing body parts on the job, because of nobody was regulating and helping them. And with what they were doing, they were having a little bit too much to drink on the job, operating the heavy equipment.
Yeah.
So that's where it comes from. The history is with noticing body parts go missing when you're drinking too much on the job. So that's kind of where we came from. And then it went into, well, now people need help, right? Just like, have you ever heard of like a nurse's office at a high school or a junior high? Have you ever known that there was a nurse's office there that helped people?
I knew there was a nurse's office. It was where, when I didn't want to take a test, I would fake being sick. So
Exactly.
I had that.
So in the workplace, we have that too. So you're right on. You got it. So basically, from substance use, and injuries on the job, it then went to, and of course, I'm just doing a condensed version of the history. And then it went into people actually had counselors' offices on the job, so people could just go down the hall. Well, what do you think might have happened by knowing, oh, Johnny's going over to the counselor's office and you're all working adults? What could have happened when
jokes, and they're making fun of, they're picking, which makes it where you don't want to go there, in my opinion.
Exactly. So then they went from being on site and in the workplace to across the street. And then what do you think happened when we knew it was across the street?
Same thing. Same.
Yep.
So you see the car. Oh, Johnny's car is parked there, and he's just trying to miss work. Oh, there's nothing wrong with him. Or maybe he really is crazy. Maybe we shouldn't promote him. Maybe, I should try to go for his job.
That's actually a good point. I was going to ask about that. Is if you see somebody going there, how can an employer keep a balance of not judging them for that? Like, oh, like your example of, oh, maybe they shouldn't. Are they ready for a promotion and stuff? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, that's why they then went from having them across the street or down the hall to let's just have a separate company. Ta-da! Here comes us, the Holman Group, and we're a separate outside company.
That is a great idea. Now, do you work with like big businesses, or do you work with small?
All sizes. We go down to 10 employees, all the way up to thousands of employees. We're nationwide, and it's really a fun benefit. We do, anything from doctor's offices to banks to credit unions to cities. We cover cities, we cover school districts, you name it. We cover the gamut, and it's part of what's called an employee benefits package. So when you go to work, you want to have coverage for your family. You want to have dental insurance, medical insurance, and a lot of people know it as an employee assistance program or the company mental health program. And, you've heard probably of these big tech companies, right? And usually or Fortune 500, Fortune 100. You've heard of those terminologies before with
Absolutely.
businesses,
Oh, yeah.
large businesses. And so usually people are competing right now for getting workers. And you've heard maybe about the unemployment rate a little bit. Have you heard on the news that the unemployment rate in different states, it's very challenging right now for people to find workers?
Right.
Yeah.
That's actually I was going to ask, with COVID going on, did you notice business increase? And then with people coming back to work, have you noticed an increase in people actually wanting to connect with mental health experts?
Yes, we definitely saw a 300% increase.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting that high a number. I was expecting a high number, but that is a big one. 300%, is that nationwide, or is that more?
Well, that's with our group. We're
Okay.
about 250,000 people that we cover, and obviously they don't all use it at the same time. But what we noticed in the very beginning is that people just called in to talk on a crisis line because they were experiencing a crisis the minute everything shut down.
Makes sense. I have to be honest. When everything shut down, I'm a very extroverted person apparently in my life, and I don't like being home. So the minute the lockdown happened, I probably would have been one of your first calls, been like, all right, what can I do? I'm stuck at home. So how can people be able to, businesses, let's go with a business. How can businesses be able to provide this to their employees?
So right now there are a lot of people that do have this type of service. It's called Employee Assistance Program, or they'll purchase additional mental health benefits coverage. And so what we're seeing is that, you saw some of the civil unrest. We might have noticed that there was a lot of different protests happening. Buildings were getting burned. People were congregating, and we saw a lot of media activity while we were at home. People were still going out and doing that, and they were expressing themselves because they were maybe not working and locked down. And so as a result of that, and some of the events that led up to that, some employers started realizing, well, I have to do something for my employees. Now, one of the things we saw, which is kind of indirectly related to your question, so bear with me.
You're good.
Is the concept of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? So because of some of the protests and really too much news and too much media and having that over and over and over again, we're watching horrible, horrible tragedies, horrible things in history that we can't, ever undo seeing, right? It's always in our mind. We know if I ask you certain names, you're going to know immediately who those people are because we've been watching them over and over in the news. And
Right.
So because of that increase, that has added to the need for mental health services. You have both ends of the spectrum. Everybody is a person. Everybody, no matter your job duties, who you are, your background, you could use mental health assistance from time to time. And we'll talk about stigma. I'd love to talk about stigma in a little bit. Also, men's mental health. Since you're both men, I'm thinking that you're identifying as men today, right? Yes? Both of you are
Yes.
men?
Yeah.
Okay.
Today.
I never know because of people put the he or him after their names. And so for me, that's very helpful because I don't assume how is anybody's feeling, what their background is. And we have to be very respectful in my business about, using the proper pronouns, which is new for me. That's a new experience for me in business to have to use pronouns. So diversity, equity, inclusion, increased mental health awareness. And really what companies are doing is they'll work through what's called an insurance broker, and they sell employee benefits. They'll go to a company like ours and they'll get a quote and they'll say, my benefits renewal is coming up and I would like to get a quote for an employee assistance program. They'll say, what are other hospital clients doing? Can you tell us benchmarks? How many sessions are they offering? Are they offering seminars? Are they offering workshops? Are they offering a wellness program? Are they offering health fairs with raffle prizes. What are they offering?
Yeah. Like, I was going to, one of my questions I have written down is all about, like, does your organization be able to provide more things like the dietitian stuff, like exercise to diet? And then I love the idea of a group thing, and what are they bringing on that? So keep going. I'm going to ask questions as we go.
Yeah, please interrupt me as you need to. And so yes, so we have vendors that we partner with. We're going to be launching some health fairs and expos coming up. So one of the things we used to do is show up at health fairs, kind of like a trade show experience, but you're at the employer, and it would be really fun. You would have vendors that you would work with to rent tables, a DJ. You might have an In-N-Out truck, even though In-N-Out is not necessarily very healthy.
I'm there.
We're in Cleveland, Ohio, and
Okay.
we just got back from Vegas. One of our things was we had to go to In-N-Out because we don't have that
I love
here.
In-N-Out.
So then I'm speaking to like-minded people.
Very much so, yes.
Very much.
Okay, so I forget that other places don't have In-N-Out. I just, thank you for reminding me. I didn't mean to be so insensitive.
Oh,
It's
you're
okay.
fine. It's
You're
rather
great.
depressing we don't. I wish we did.
Well,
Joe
do
wants
you have White Castle?
Not
We
as
do
good.
have White Castle.
Not even close.
Okay, but that's the closest thing I can think of
Correct.
to In-N-Out. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to how you get it. So one of the things I'll tell people is I'll look up at what some of the huge companies are doing to honor mental health benefits, and I'll use that as a benchmark because it's public information. It's in my research, and I'll say this is what this giant coffee company is doing, or this is what this giant clothing company is doing, and they're offering 12 sessions for free for counseling. And this other company is offering 20 sessions for free. If you look at what they might have offered before or what everybody else was offering, it was more like 3 sessions or 5 sessions for free. So you can see that COVID has really increased people's awareness. And when you have to pay something when you go to the doctor, you're probably less likely to go to the doctor if you have to pay $25 or you have to pay, what's called a deductible, where, you might have a $250 deductible. That's your first time going and you're going to a therapist. And why would you want to pay $250, to go see your therapist when you think it should be free or $10, something like that. So
Right. When
we put hoops and hurdles for people, versus free, I think most people would go to free if they were maybe they forgot about it and, somebody at their work, or they went to the health fair with the DJ and the raffle prizes and the In-N-Out truck, they go to the event and they say, oh, I pick up your brochure and I learn about that. So we're excited to go to our clients again and to start attending health fairs.
I like that. I like that a lot. How are you guys breaking the stigma for these people? Like, a lot of people. You mentioned men, and we actually did a podcast a couple of months ago about men's mental health and how it needs to be talked about a little more, and not with the judgment, like you were saying about. Oh, you see, Joe. I think you said Joey, going to the nurse's office. I'm leaving it at Joey on purpose. But going to the nurse's office and that, as men, we have this in our head that, oh, nope, we can't talk about that. And I know a lot of men that feel like that, my dad. And I would ask, how do you break that stigma for both sexes to be able, for everybody to be able to want to go get the best help they can for themselves?
So I've been spending about a month on an audio app. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name.
I won't tell anybody. Do you want me to make a noise right when you say it?
No, it's okay. I don't work for the company and I'm not necessarily promoting them. It's just where it's, free to everybody in the App Store. It's Clubhouse.
Oh yeah, go ahead. We've had many people mention Clubhouse.
Okay,
You're good.
So I'm on there and I found this amazing doctor and I've been joining groups with her, and she has a 5-part series on men's mental health. And so we happen to have a 2.5 hour, it felt like a marathon yesterday, about men's mental health. And then, there'll be another part next week and so forth. And she's going to do one on veterans possibly coming up. Now that I'm talking about it, she's going to have to commit to the veterans piece.
Right.
So it was great. We had a great discussion yesterday.
And that's open for everybody because of being on Clubhouse.
It's open for everybody. So if you were to friend me on Clubhouse or follow me or however it works, basically.
What is your
That's true. I invited him into Clubhouse.
Fernando's good people. He's told me to get into Clubhouse as well, and I have an Android, so apparently I'm not allowed on there.
You can
they fixed that?
So you set up your account on your Android. It is compatible. And then what you do is if somebody has an iPhone or an iPad, you can just hook your Instagram or your Twitter. The only thing is I have to say is that you have to have your name matched. So whatever name you have on, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, it has to match your name, for the platform or it doesn't work.
Okay. I'm fine with that. It'd be my company name or my personal one. So yeah, I'd be good with that.
Yeah, so it's exciting because even if you are predominantly interested, let's just say entrepreneurship and, wellness, health, mental health, people who will come up and join other rooms. You can be what's called a co-moderator. I've actually heard the founder of Clubhouse, and he co-founded Netflix, and he did MoviePass. So I got to hear him, and I like to listen to satellite radio in my car, and I listen to the business channel just because I like to be current, and it's quick. If I'm driving, I can just listen to the business news. And so I feel like Clubhouse has been my way to just stay current with, what's happening in the tech industry or what's happening with entrepreneurs or what's happening with Bitcoin or, whatever the topic is. It's great.
I'm answering Fernando at the same time. Can I invite you, Brandon? Yes, Fernando, please invite me. That way I can check it out. I'd love to.
Yes.
Now tell me more about what, like the mental, you were talking about how you're going to have a class next week or a Clubhouse next week. Do they have a special name for that?
Yeah, well, we talked about the one we did was Men Suffer Too. That was yesterday. And next week it's, I think, emotional health or something along that lines. And so what I'll do is I will, put it on my Instagram. And then if anybody follows me, I can just copy and paste it and send it to them. Or you can see if she makes me a co-moderator to promote the event, my name will be on it too. So it's really great because, you can have 8 moderators, you can have 2 moderators, you can just have a spontaneous room. And when you have a guest on Clubhouse, whether it's an author or, people that are experts on different pieces of how it all comes together, it really is nice. So like if you were going to, I don't know, somebody told me that they're switched to real estate. So I have a friend that is in New York that switched to real estate. And I was trying to convince her to go on Clubhouse. And I said, you could talk about, moving services, and you can talk about, schools in the area of where you sell houses, and you can talk about, homeowners insurance and appliances. You're not really having to talk about, oh, I'm the best realtor, come work with me. You're talking around the issue to really prove that you're a subject matter expert. That's basically what you're doing.
Very nice. Very cool. And next week you're going to be doing men's mental health with veterans?
Well, I think that's going to be coming up soon. Next week is it's a 5-part series that I'm doing with Dr. Leslie Rogers. And that'll be continuing the men's mental health on emotional health, I believe, of men. And I have to tell you, there was some sharp people on there. This one gentleman, he's a hostage negotiator in his past, and Army veteran or military veteran, and just some really sharp people. And I was like, wow, and part of it, which is a mental health issue that some people, you might have heard of imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And so basically, a lot of people who were successful feel like, how did I get here? And I haven't written a book, so should I be here? Or, am I as good as my neighbor? Or, and so all of these rooms on the various topics, that could be on negotiation, it could be on, taking care of how you're feeling on the inside, self-care. And so that's what I love about the room is that they touch on, even though if it's men's mental health, they'll touch on a lot of topics from how you're feeling to, being bullied in school. We touched on yesterday, how physical strength versus emotional strength. I mean, I think one of the biggest themes that I found is that most men that were on the platform had some type of physical abuse, beating up, getting in a fight, bullied, that was a common theme, on the platform, that they really, and they were told over and over that, suck it up, don't cry, or, men need to fight it out. And they didn't really want to do it. Have you heard themes like that before? Does that sound familiar?
Very much so. I would say growing up, that was something where like Joe's gonna make fun of me. Being somebody that is more of a emotional connector, I can connect with people emotionally and stuff. If somebody else was crying, I would feel that energy and I'd want to cry with them. And I remember growing up, my dad was like, "No, you don't cry. You don't do that. Like men don't cry." And now we're the polar opposites. I'm like, you can cry, Dad. Don't worry. It's going to be okay. But for real, I remember growing up and thinking, if I cry, I'm weak. If I cry, I'm worthless. If I'm disappointing my father. And I remember in my head that always stuck with me. And it was a hard thing for me to break. A lot of men hear that voice and they don't realize it's their inner child, I think, coming out, telling them that stuff. If you're, I really quick, I want to get your Instagram in here. I have it set up so I could type it. What is your Instagram so I can share that for everybody to follow you?
Did I put it in the chat?
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Probably easier than trying to spell it out.
I've been there. I get that. So with doing all of this and being, I love it. Are you in Cali?
LA.
I was just in LA. I love that. With everything with everything going on and all that, and seeing the newest, like everybody getting ready to, I'm trying to share this and talk at the same time, everybody getting into mental health, how do you make sure to keep it as an actual growth thing? And I don't want to make it sound weird, but like trendy, because I've noticed a lot of people have been saying, I have mental health issues now. And it's not saying they don't, but it's like it seems to be said a lot more than it has been in the past. Is that people actually, you think, that are going through this, that are looking for help, or with social media, it just makes it easier for them to talk about?
I think we all have mental health issues. Just by living and breathing, we all have mental health issues. And so, you look at anybody's environment and we've never really broken down or done the analysis of, boundaries. This is okay. This is not okay. So I think that because it used to be a stigma, it still is a stigma for people, especially because it's related to their job. So some people, if people find out they have a mental health issue, it's so serious, even if their issue is not that big, that it could affect their job. For other people, right, it could affect losing custody of their kids. So people are still very cautious and concerned about the degree of mental health issues that, while it's being normalized in terms of it appears to be the trend, you're going to always have in any trend a small percentage of people that are going to want to ride the train, so to speak, and take advantage of the trend and use it to their advantage. At the same time, there are people that are now finally able to verbalize it, though it's still a scary thing because a lot of businesses and companies, especially smaller businesses, don't understand the laws protecting people. Once you say, I have a drug and alcohol problem, or I have a mental health issue, can you help me? Do we have benefits? You have to find a way to give them help. And at the same time, you're not a therapist, you're not a counselor. And if you do the wrong thing, you have somebody's potential life, loss of life even on your hands. And so one of the things working in this business is there's a lot of things we see that don't make it to the news. And so what you're seeing on a news event that looks like it's exploding, I've been dealing with for 20 years.
That's
It's just,
heavy.
it was never newsworthy. It's now newsworthy because of who is speaking about it. The people have the social media following. The people get ratings. That's why you're seeing, in my humble opinion, that's why you're seeing an explosion.
Wow. I think that's a good point. Now, I like one of the things you said. As a business owner, you're not a therapist. But as people who, everybody loves to be there for their friends and family, but maybe they're not therapists either. How would you recommend taking it seriously for people who are suffering from anxiety, depression, whatever mental health order it might be?
It's really dangerous if you try to diagnose your family members. It's also dangerous to go to your friends for a variety of reasons. You mentioned Joe. I'm going to pick on Joe.
Go ahead.
So when we tell Joe, that we cried, or if Joe saw we were crying, we may feel like our relationship or our friendship may not be the same. So it's really, have you ever noticed when you might have been fighting with Joe and you told, Fernando that you were fighting, and he's like, you guys made up, you're total bros, you're happy as can be. And now Fernando's like, so, are you guys still fighting? What's going on? Are we still friends with Joe? And because you have poured your heart out in the moment, because we just want to get things off our chest, but then we reconcile so quickly, but the other person is still mad or still trying to defend you, and then they're confused. How could you switch so quickly? Like, what's going on? And are you just having a mental health issue? Is this part of something that I'm going to see on a regular basis? So by pouring your heart out to your friends, on the one hand, it feels good, but now you're dragging them through the experience, and they're not a therapist either.
So how do you create boundaries in yourself?
Well, for me, I'm going to just give you a simple non-mental health example just to kind of help the audience maybe try it on for size, see if they like it. So let's just say I'm working on my posture, right? Because sometimes I slouch. Oh.
Yeah, I was like,
We both moved up. Right? Okay, so going on my posture.
So I want to work on my posture. I don't want to walk around with a book on my head practicing, right? I don't really want to do that, because that's, kind of what we saw in the olden days, and we're current. And we want to go with the time. So what I might do to set a boundary is, so I'm going to pick my buddy or my goal friend that's going to help me. It could be somebody that I trust. And I'll say, we're going to be going out together to Vegas. We're going to be going here. And I'm going to be standing at this table at this convention, or I'm going to be speaking. And I really want to work on my posture. I'm going to tell you to please scratch your nose if you see me slouching. Okay. And I'm going to just look for that little verbal cue, or, verbal cue, visual cue. It could be a cough. It could be the magic word, happy time, whatever it is. So I could just, but you have to have a boundary, and you have to have respect. So that could be anything you're doing, because this goes into stress, right? This is all part of mental health. Your physical, have you ever gripped the steering wheel? Have you ever leaned forward when you're driving and you realize, at least I do, when I'm like in traffic, or I'm really trying to focus on where I'm going, or is that a person I see in the middle of the road? In LA, it happens. You've got a lot of people wandering in the middle of the street, and you don't want to hit them. So I lean forward, and I realize my knuckles are white, my shoulders are up. And so I might tell somebody who's driving in the car with me, if you see that I'm doing that, I'm gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles, I'm not going to feel very good when I get out of the car. I'm going to just feel like I have a stiff neck. So you're going to be somebody that I'm going to allow, and I'm going to establish that boundary. Now, if I'm somewhere else, I'm at a party or whatever, and you're doing that, well, I didn't give you permission to remind me at that party. It's only in business situations. It's only in the car. So that's just an example of setting boundaries. I know it's kind of a silly example.
It's a good one though, because you gave it where like you're in the car, you gave me the boundary. It's when you're in public, it could be more of that could trigger something else because now you're in front of other things, you're at a party, and that makes complete sense. I think it's a good example. You said goal friend, is that correct?
Like a goal friend, a goal buddy, yeah.
I love that idea. I've never heard that before, and I thought your analogy with it was perfect. I was picturing in my head, I did a presentation this last week in Vegas, and Joe was in the back, and instead of making fun of me, he could have been looking at my posture. And the truth,
flawless.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy. But like having a friend that you like share that with, it also, I'm willing to bet a lot of people have not heard of that. Like,
well, they've heard about it a different way.
Talk to me.
So if anybody ever goes to the gym, do you know anybody that goes to the gym?
I do. Quite a bit.
Okay. So an accountability partner. Has anybody heard of an accountability partner for the gym or for exercise? So it's a similar concept where they say, for example, if you ever worked with a personal trainer or you had to buy packages or you had to pay for a trainer, they want you to pay up front and then they want you to pay a cancellation fee, et cetera, because that motivates you to go to the gym. So that's just a monetary, with money way to motivate you to go to the gym. So this is just another word as an accountability partner, whether you want to drink more water, whether you want to, try to eat a salad at least one day a week. Okay, so I give you permission to text me and say, hey, it's Tuesday. Are we going to order salads on, Uber Eats or whatever, or, what's happening?
I love that. I like that. Do you have a favorite type of salad? This is purposely a question I'm asking. What is your favorite salad?
There's so many that I like. It's a problem. I usually like the off the menu salads that I can design. There's a place called Salad Farm near us. And so it's like a California protein salad that I like.
Ooh, that sounds good. I ask because I like to get salads and Joe makes fun of me. So
No. See, Brandon likes to get salads at fine dining steak joints when no one else gets a salad.
I ordered a kale salad for myself. And since that day, it's been a fun joke for everybody to make fun of me instead of getting a steak. And I'm like,
I love kale. I love kale. And it's a little bit too bitter for some people and a little bit too hearty is another word I've heard people use it. And I've had a kale Caesar salad before and it was actually amazing.
That sounds pretty good.
I was going to say that sounds incredible. I've never had a kale Caesar. I want that
me
now.
neither.
That sounds good. So with a goal friend, like I love the analogy, the working out, the accountability and all that. How can somebody be a good goal friend? Like the water and all that, but like setting those boundaries with each other. Like Joe knows my goals for the company and personally because he teaches me how to work out better. I insult Joe, but I love Joe and he knows that. Because trust me, he'll get his digs in when he can. With a goal friend, how do you create that with each other to actually build something special? Would there be guidelines you'd recommend?
Well, I would just recommend, just writing down a couple things on a piece of paper. You have what's called a SMART goal, which is the easiest. It's free. So if you Google SMART goal, SMART, and tell me what you see. Make you go to work here.
You are a SMART goal. Enter.
And tell me what it's close enough, but tell me what each letter means.
Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based.
Okay. So you can get free templates off the internet. There are free worksheets. You can see what you like, and you can do one sheet per goal.
Like these?
Yes.
Perfect.
But they also have Excel sheets where you can actually fill them out. So you might say, so this chart kind of tells you about the concept. And then you might actually pull out, see where it says worksheet?
Oh, yep, right here.
So this is what you might print out, one of these, or you could make your own. You could put your company logo on it, really personalize it.
I love this.
And then anybody that you work with, you could do this for professional goals. You could do this for personal goals. And basically, some of them are going to be short term, maybe 30 days, and some of them are going to be long term, maybe a year, and you're going to have everything in between.
This is very cool. I've heard that analogy before, but I've never made one, and I think that's a great thing to do. With having your company and dealing with all of you've had a company for years, and like you said, 300% growth. Have you noticed a change in the last few years of how people are responding to mental health? Is it becoming more of an accepting thing, or are you noticing people are, still a little reluctant?
It really depends on the profession, the industry, and it really depends on, kind of the timing and what's happening. In the beginning, while we saw the 300% increase on the phone, the face-to-face visits went away. People that already didn't trust counselors, they would only trust them in a face-to-face setting.
Yeah.
And who didn't want to call on the phone, or they called on the phone, they felt like they were okay for a while. They were not into what's called telehealth or video sessions. So we really lost out on helping people for an entire year who already were intimidated, who already didn't trust this type of experience, who really needed the help. We unfortunately, those people didn't get the help that they needed. We ended up, noticing that by the time things started opening up, they were, needing a lot more help than they would have a year ago, that they, were a little bit more severe. It was more of an emergency. Now, it's kind of like the analogy where, I would rather buy brand new socks than wash my socks. I'd rather throw away my socks than do my laundry, right? Have you ever heard of people saying that?
Yes.
Well, that's me. I don't like laundry. I would rather go buy new socks and just throw them away.
I would too. That's why I'm laughing. I've never heard anybody else say it out loud, so I love it. I'm like, oh, I'm not alone. I always kept that inside. You said it, Elizabeth, that's my breakthrough moment right there.
And so we need to recognize where we're at.
Yeah.
And, basically it's, just finding out, well, do I have the tools and the resources and the support system to get through, which some people actually became more creative and more resourceful. So you have that group, and then you have the people that actually tanked, and then you have the people right in the middle. So you had a little bit of everything, though what I mentioned is kind of the freak out moment when everything shut down, and now I have to see the people in my house, my roommates, my family members. I've got multiple generations living in my house. And I really didn't get along with them that well before COVID. And now I'm stuck with them for a year. And you can imagine what happened.
Mm-hmm. Your mental health went down.
So unfortunately, there's things that we don't even want to hear about or talk about, where you have kids hiding in closets because, trying to hide from abuse, or hiding from fighting, or seeing somebody being abused. And it's not necessarily the population we always deal with. It's a portion of our population, because we deal with public and private sector in our business. Though the fact that, we have a homeless population, we have a bunch of different populations that we deal with. And so people that are already on the edge or the fringe, or who are couch surfing, in some situations, it's just going to get worse for them in a situation like COVID. And I noticed in LA near me that, they actually, which I have to give them some credit, they put porta potties in. They allowed the homeless camps to continue. They got larger and larger and larger, from like 5 people to like 100 people.
Yeah. There's actually, that's a very big thing in California on the West Coast right now. The homeless epidemic is growing exponentially, and it's been that you've probably seen it firsthand how much it's changed. How can with that, you're seeing mental health on the rise. You're seeing all these other things. How can people be able to get the help they need, especially in tough situations like that?
It's hard. It's really, really hard. I mean, you do have people that have a job that are homeless. And so I'd say even before COVID, we got a lot of phone calls about people needing resources for people that were, maybe using some of the facilities at the business or, the gym across the street, they were showering or, living in their car. I mean, you heard about that happening for some of the tech companies before COVID, that it was so expensive in certain parts of California that they were living in their car because it was cheaper than paying rent. And that was a choice, obviously. Maybe they had an RV or a nicer car. But here we're seeing people that are just, it's a challenge. I mean, in the county system and in the city system, there are people that try to help, during our heat wave that we've been happening. So you'll see the councilmen going around with frozen water bottles. You'll see the homeless shelters asking for clothes or food, certain things on their list. And you just try to help where you can. But the main thing is breaking the stigma of mental health. It goes back to where we already are socializing. Is that stigma broken about mental health? So if somebody goes to a gym or somebody goes to a place of worship, a synagogue, a church, a mosque, wherever they go, is there some knowledge about recognizing mental health symptoms? And back to your question about, well, what if my friend has mental health issues? Or what if, Joe is angry and he's punching holes through walls and throwing stuff, and he's just got this rage, what do I do? Do I throw an ice bath on him to calm him down? The challenge, like the, what is that TikTok challenge with the ice bath that was going around?
The ice bucket challenge. Yeah.
Yes. What do I do? Or do I say, hey, Joe, here's this phone number. It's free. And, it's for the state of Ohio. And, why don't you go talk to somebody? If there are no other resources, the best thing you can do is to find those free phone numbers. I'll Google, mental health line, crisis line, suicide hotline. I will Google those. And sometimes I give them to clients because they'll have people that are kind of on the fringes or roommates that might be living with one of their employees that they're like, well, what can we do to help this roommate? Well, here's some phone numbers of some free services.
Now, I have to ask, since you deal mainly with businesses, what if individuals were looking to get help on their own and they don't have the capabilities to get into a mental health service like that? How can we be able to provide, how can we connect them with someone that can help?
It's the free services that I mentioned. So NAMI, N-A-M-I.
Boom. I'm writing it up here for everybody.
Okay. That's one of them.
And
we have a lot of really good resources, and there's chapters in each major city, and they can help advocate for people having challenges with their kids in school districts, challenges, for individuals, somebody that wants to even know, how do I pick somebody? How do I know they're any good? So NAMI could be a possible resource. And then also SAMHSA, S-A-M-S-H-A. So S-A-M-S-H-A. They are a good resource for picking like rehab programs. If somebody wants to go, say, I'm, done with this lifestyle, I want to, go get clean and sober, or I want my family member to go. So they list facilities and they have resources. Also, the CDC, we've heard about the CDC. They're a great resource for mental health articles, information.
You are a wealth of knowledge. Now, you were born into this because it's a family business. Mm-hmm. Did you think you were going to be doing this the rest of your life and taking over the family business?
No, my dad and I were in a room this week, a couple rooms on Clubhouse. Now, my dad and I are doing them together, which is fun. And he reminded everybody that I wanted to be a Spanish translator.
That is a little different. I told
Fernando, when are you going to do your podcast, when are you going to interview people in Spanish? I said, you could really open up a market in other countries and even people in this country. And he's like, yeah, well, because when I just have to talk about him for a moment. When I spoke to him and got to know him to see if I would be a good fit, I learned about the Matchmaker FM program, through Clubhouse.
Really?
And I've only been on Clubhouse for 4 weeks. I signed up, I went on my profile, and you all are the first people that contacted me.
Well, I'm glad we
Number
did.
one.
Yes. So with mental health on the rise, how can parents, because they're dealing with it and they have their work and all that, how can they be good examples for their kids, providing boundaries and mental health understanding?
I'm just going to borrow something that one of the things that's easy and quick. Well, 2 things that I'll borrow from people. Surround yourself with experts, right? If you don't know something in business and life, you want to work with some experts to help you. So there was a gentleman who was really, counseling in schools, in the school system. I can't remember what state he was in, on the Clubhouse talk yesterday. And he had a little traffic signal behind his shoulder, red, yellow, and green.
Okay.
So one easy way as parents is to start putting a definition around the red, yellow, and green traffic-like symbol with your family, your friends, your kids, and say, somebody not getting along with somebody, do you want me to go talk to the school? The issue right now is a yellow. I'm in the middle with what's going on. I'm not getting physically beat up at school. I'm uncomfortable. I feel bad, but I'm a yellow. Will you let me know when it gets to a red? And then I have your permission to talk to the school, get involved. So one thing you can do with your kids is to develop that system. In therapy, they also use a scale of 1 to 10. So if you were to look on the internet for, it's a chart, how am I feeling today? And it's a scale of 1 to 10. So especially for kids that aren't verbal, you have some autistic children, it's a tool that they use for people that can't really express how they're feeling. And also, believe it or not, in pain management, in the setting, they have, how is your pain today? And they have, different faces on a scale of 1 to 10. So that's a simple thing that parents can use if you want to show, how am I feeling today? Right? These are really, really good charts for kids.
I like this one. Like, this one just popped out to me, and I don't know why, but it's like having the different zones, having like green is go and it's happy and all that. That like you can connect with this, you see it. I like that blue is there as well. This is a great tool for parents with kids that are trying to help build that up.
And you can do that also if you're in an office setting, or how people adjust their social media with a type of face or what mood you're in. It's no different than that concept. Right?
Yeah.
You could use one of those faces or things to let your coworkers or, people know how you're doing. And when my kids wake up, I talk about it because, snapping at me when you wake up doesn't feel good, right? And I know they're not really mad at me. They're just grouchy. So we have a code. We say, okay, if you didn't get enough sleep or you need 10 minutes to wake up and I'm kind of in your face, can you say, Mom, I'm a little grouchy, can you give me 10 minutes? So we talk like that, and we process after that snap or that incident. Of course, once it's safe to, talk, and we try to establish what are our boundaries based on, especially if it's repetitive behavior, you want to start understanding, and you don't want to take it personal. As a parent, in the beginning, when you're first figuring things out, you take everything personally, and it's a lot of times it's really not you.
Very well said. Very well said. Elizabeth, you are like a wealth of knowledge. You've provided a lot of great facts and all that. We're coming to the last 5 minutes of the show. So I'm going to give you the platform to say anything you want. Like, you could say F Joe if you want. I understand a lot of guys do.
I want to know why F Joe is there.
Because Brandon's really mean, and he's everything bad that you talked about, like the bully, makes fun of you for crying. It goes back to the goal accountability and the goal friend. Brandon asked me to help him eat healthier and lose a little bit of weight. He didn't really know what he was asking for when he did. Long story short, he hid some Oreos after I said he could have a couple. He hid a lot more than a couple. So since he kind of was sneaky, I threw them away. And so then he said, F Joe. But when really he was saying like, F me for not taking care of myself. So it was just kind of his fun way of blaming me, but he was holding himself accountable. And it really took off in his world and now mine, apparently. So it's the
I have
thing.
to say, I love Oreos. I really do. And my
They're
kids love
vegan.
Oreos. So listen. So Joe, you know about cheat days, right?
Absolutely. And he knows he gets them.
Okay, so now Oreos, if you're exercising, is really not going to make or break you as long as you don't eat the entire sleeve.
That's true. Fun fact, 2 Oreos a day, you'll gain 30 pounds in a year.
What?
Fun fitness fact for you. Mm-hmm.
See, this is like the stuff he says to me, and then I'm like, fine.
He's eaten Oreos plenty of times since.
So listen. And also it can be your diet, you know, when you have a lot of carbohydrates, I have diabetes in the family. So when you have a lot of carbohydrates, your body craves that over and over. You know, you have these spikes and you feel hungry and you feel like it gets you full or it gets you to that level of energy that you like. So when you start replacing it, if you have smoothies or you have something else that's healthy, right, you can have more of a balanced diet. And that craving for the Oreos, it's just, if you look at the carbohydrate content and an Oreo and the fat content and the amount of sugar, and you start to experiment with other things that might, so you have things higher in fiber to make you feel full.
Yep.
You eat more often. You eat every, 2 to 3 hours. You drink more water. You know what I mean? So you look at how are you feeling? Why are you craving the Oreo? Because it's the feeling after eating the Oreo. So how do I replicate that feeling with some other foods and start experimenting? So you say, Joe, will you help me find out what foods can make me feel and have kind of like that sugar rush or that spike in energy that I get from eating Oreos? Could you help me, Joe?
I think he suggested a Pop-Tart, and I had to shoot that one down too.
I think
it's just awareness. It's kind of like, you have to just have awareness.
Yeah.
And, ultimately you don't want to go to the doctor and have him say, hey, Brandon, you're pre-diabetic.
Right.
That is the worst thing you could hear. Yeah,
I agree. What have you found as your replacement to Oreos, just out of curiosity?
Liquids help. Drinking more tea. I drink passion iced tea, which is the Tazo tea.
I love it. I'm drinking a ginger tea. I made my own raw ginger tea. So for me, like, I love that you're saying tea, because I'm like, yes.
So I drink a lot of iced tea. It's very filling. Also, I know it doesn't sound that good, but I snack on seaweed. Seaweed, sheets of seaweed. I know it doesn't sound that good, but it's like a snack instead of eating chips.
Well, Brandon, and this is no pun intended, make kale chips.
Okay.
No, I'm being really serious.
I know what he's
my
saying.
mom absolutely loves them, and I think it's a really interesting science experiment because there's so much kale on the tray, and then they're made, and it's like,
yeah.
But it is a really, really good snack.
And believe it or not, I'll eat bread, so the healthier type of breads, and I'll have almond butter on it.
Yes, I do that.
It's I love so that. Good.
I love that. Almond butter is my
fantastic
favorite.
Replacement for Oreos.
I agree.
Or if you really need to, the right type of peanut butter and jelly.
Yes.
You can have peanut butter and jelly sandwich as a replacement from Oreos, and it would be much better.
And Brandon, you could even do rice cakes with a little almond butter on top.
I did that the other day. I did a rice cake with almond butter.
Yeah.
What is the right peanut butter and jelly? It's obviously not the Smucker's ones that I can get and put in the freezer.
Do you have Trader Joe's by you? I don't know.
We do. Yes, we do.
Okay, so Trader Joe's brand is typically pretty healthy. It's the unsalted kind of regular version. You can do smooth or chunky. That's really good. And then also the like no added sugar preserves or spread. That's the lowest carbohydrate count. So you want it to be like under 6 carbohydrates per serving for the jelly.
I gotcha. I actually just made a note of that right on my side thing here. So Elizabeth, the way we end every episode is we talk about how we want to leave our impact on the world.
Okay.
And you have been doing amazing things. Joe usually leaves it with the same quote every time, be the change you want to see. It's Gandhi, but he says it and I quote him and that's that. Mine is, I'm going to just be a little different today. It's be open, be honest, and be respectful to everybody, because if you are, the right people are going to come in because they're going to give you that back. What would you say is your final thought of the day that how you want to leave your impact on the world?
Well, I would just say remembering self-care. There's something that my father taught me when I had a really hard time in my life, and we typed it up and put it on the mirror, and he said it in the beginning when he first started going into business, because he, didn't really like himself in the beginning. And it's just, I love you because spirit or God or some higher power loves you just the way you are. I love you. I love you. I love you. So I would recommend that everybody practice self-care and self-love. If you're ever feeling a little down, just write some affirmations on your mirror. Look in the mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself. And that's what I would leave, that I would want everybody to really nurture their insides, and then their outsides will catch up.
I love that. I love that. All right. I'm going to have one more question just because you ended on self-care. What is your favorite way to self-care?
I'm big into aromatherapy.
Ooh, okay.
And I don't have it going right now. I need to get some better brands going. I have aromatherapy, lavender, eucalyptus. And so I really love to control my environment where I can.
I love that. I love that. I just had to ask because we one of the things, we had a gentleman on and we talked about mental health and self-love. And what was funny was he goes, my self-love is I go get manicures. And and we are like, why? And he goes, I bite my nails. And he goes, once I started doing that, I stopped biting my nails, and then other little habits happened. So self-love is essential. And I love how that's why I had to ask how yours was. Give people maybe something they don't realize they could do for themselves. Elizabeth,
it's very inexpensive, so I really recommend it.
I love it. Elizabeth, this has been a phenomenal interview. Ladies and gentlemen, go check out their website. There's links here. Follow Elizabeth on Instagram. I'm trying to get back to her. Brian Tracy went and found
join on Clubhouse. Look for me on Clubhouse. I'm the same name. Well, actually, I'm Mindful Prez. It's Mindful Prez on Clubhouse.
Mindful
Prez. If I see you're on there, I'll add you, and then I'll bring you into the men's mental health discussion next week.
I would absolutely be astonished.
It's Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and it's usually for about 2.5 hours. I'm
100% on board, and I would love to be able to do that. And this is your Mindful Prez at Clubhouse. So Fernando's already probably sent me a text message and an email for me to get on there. And Elizabeth, I just want to thank you so much for coming on, bringing a wealth of knowledge, being there for people the way you are. I love how you've adapted mental health and made it such a very common topic to talk about. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Thank you. And I would love to check back in with you, like to have a part 2 about your goal setting and how things are going.
So I have that in the background, and I think I'm going to make Joe print one out too. And we're going to start doing that. And I might make my own sheet to give to all of our audience in honor of you. And I'm going to have to tag your Instagram for that one.
Okay. I love it. And just please keep growing and keep reaching and connecting out with others. And I have to tell you, one other quick thing is that I like to try to have 2 meaningful connections a day with people, one online and one in person, now that we're opening up since June 15th. And whether I'm complimenting somebody, look up the 10 pennies exercise. I'm going to leave you with another nugget.
I love
It's
it.
called 10 Pennies.
Got
The
it.
10 Pennies group exercise, and you might see it under like a human resources type of association or group. And basically, you start off with 10 pennies in one pocket, and then you move each penny or coin one at a time to the other pocket once you've given out a compliment to somebody else and you've truly connected and were sincere with somebody else. And by the end of the day, you want to have all your pennies in the other pocket.
Really? I love that idea. Oh my gosh. I have that back here too. Elizabeth, this has been a phenomenal interview. Guys, go give her a follow, give her a like, a subscribe, get involved, and find her on Clubhouse because it sounds like she's going to be running it soon. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. This is another episode of the H and Honest Conversation, as we just had, about health, hemp, and happiness. Elizabeth, thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Have a good one, guys.